on the roof deck, they have this exhibit, and there's a drum that two people put their hands on little receptors on either side, and your heartbeat will dictate the percussion of the drum. And Nelson happened to be running around, and we both had our hands on it, and Nelson tripped, and my drum went boom, 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 boom. It was so wonderful for Nels to see. My husband's name is Nels, and our son is Nelson. It's confusing. But Nels physically, he saw it, heard it, that my body had a physical reaction to our child tripping. It was so amazing to have that visual and like physical experience for him to understand that that's what's going on in my body.
Welcome to the Soul Mamas podcast with your host, Nicole De Leon. This weekly podcast is designed for adventurous mamas, business owners, creative visionaries, athletes, and ocean lovers, to name a few, living strong, independent lives while negotiating their role as mom. As a longtime surfer of 25 years who is now a new mama, I will speak candidly about the trials and tribulations of being a new mom without giving up the sport and lifestyle I so adore. Along with stories from my own life, I will be joined by guests who are raising or who have raised children while maintaining passionate, mindful living. The Soul Mamas podcast is a safe and non-judgmental space for those of us who don't define ourselves by societal conventions, but by our desire to pave our own way in order to inspire our children to do the same. Mama is an ocean mama that I see in the water locally, and she's just an ocean mama through and through. She really admits that adjusting to motherhood after almost 3 years, so it's been about 2.5 years, isn't always the easiest adjustment. And, being a mom of a toddler and a former model / actor within the surf industry, she's going to talk to us just today about her experience with returning to the water and just returning to all the things that once really identified her, and how we can all really attest to that. So this is Catherine Gerhardt, and she is a mommy of a 2.5-year-old. She lives in Santa Barbara, California, but she is originally from the San Francisco area. So she actually started surfing around 16 years old, but at some of the heaviest beaches in California. So it really changed her into respecting the ocean in such a way that she ended up teaching surfing for a long time. And Ocean Beach, for those of you mamas who don't know, is super heavy, breaks really far out, and you have to learn respect for the ocean. And she's also an environmentalist. She was on the board of the Santa Barbara Channel Keeper, and she really believes in, protecting our local waters and the ocean at large. And she just believes that living a purposeful, passionate life is just a wonderful gift we can give our little ones. And just following our dreams is completely possible, even with busy schedules. And busy schedules, we're going to talk about not getting sleep and sleep deprivation, which she's kind of emerging from right now, but kind of in as well. So we're going to talk a lot about that, and then just trying to return to who we once thought we were prior to, having our little ones. So I'm very honored to have her on the show today. Welcome, Catherine.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome, and you could probably tell I'm double caffeinated today, so
Good job.
I take some deep breaths in that intro. Sorry for the speed.
Sometimes you just got to do it.
So you and I actually touched base on sharing something very similar, which was not getting any sleep for a really long time, and how that can make us feel literally crazy, and maybe you can touch upon that, how old your little son is and what your experience with that has been.
Well, it is crazy making. Absolutely. He's 2.5, and he's just a wonderful, sweet, kind, amazing, smart human being. And the only thing I feel like we really struggle with is sleep. So I'm not good at not getting sleep. And my husband, with his schedule and stuff, he's learned how to fall asleep anywhere at any time. So I'm kind of jealous of that. But yeah, waking up in the middle of the night, it would be hard for me to go back to sleep. I feel like I'm in this constant perpetuum of just never getting enough and always feeling tired and just a little bit in a zombie mode sometimes. Mm-hmm. So it kind of takes the lust for life out of it. It really dampens the soul sometimes in a way, because I feel like I don't have energy to do things. I don't have energy to go work out. I don't have energy, I barely can make it. The only thing I get really excited about is going surfing. So if there was waves, it doesn't matter how tired I am. I'm like, I know it'll make me feel better. But yeah, the sleep deprivation is a serious issue. And I think something that people don't acknowledge enough about having kids. It's no matter how well your child sleeps, I feel like you're always going to be tired. So,
Yeah, I'd like to just second that is that I kind of joked about it before motherhood, like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to sleep again. And what I didn't realize, and you probably are finding as well, is that it changes everything. Like my semblance of self
mm,
is really based on how much sleep I get. And really, it can be really based on hormones and it can be, all the things that happen to us, pre and postpartum, it can be a really
mhm.
big deal. And I know a lot of moms that have been on the show who have experienced postpartum anxiety and depression and OCD, and they didn't even know that it was like, caused by lack of sleep.
Yes, it's how you regulate your body, it's how your body heals, and if you don't get that time to rest and relax mentally as well, it is just you're on edge. I feel like when I do actually get some rest, I'm just so much more gracious with, when he's being irritating or throwing things or doing something. When I don't sleep, I might be snappy and, short tempered. And then you end up feeling bad and guilty about how you acted, but it's not you. It's not who I am,
Right.
And so it's this weird conflicting feeling where I'm so tired and I don't feel like myself and I'm not acting like myself, but I want to be better. It's hard to get out of it sometimes. I do find that, taking a little bit of time for myself, I've learned actually how to get Nelson. He's great at self play, and just taking a little bit of time in the morning, I'll bring him into the bathroom, put him down with a toy. He loves these magnet tiles now or blocks or whatever it is. And it's even just 5-10 minutes in the shower while he's sitting in the bathroom. And I found that, if I can just start my day like that, even when I'm so tired, I have a shower, I feel like a little bit more awake and a little bit more ready to deal with him. It helps. It helps a lot. So, sorry, the trash man is here. My dog is
No
going.
worries. It's authentic motherhood. And, I was going to ask you what some of your like tricks have. It's kind of a two-part question, but what some of your tricks have been to, like self-care for yourself. Like, do you vie for self-care? Do you articulate that to your family and to your husband? And then my second part was, did your family or husband realize how, hard it was, the struggle, with the lack of sleep on the mom in particular?
Yes, I do think that he's very, aware of my situation and how hard it is for me. And I think that something that it's hard for husbands or men in general to realize is that being a mother is so all encompassing. I'm thinking about so much more than just is he sleeping right now, and I'm thinking about tomorrow. I'm thinking about what we're eating. I'm thinking, you just have so much on your plate, and they don't necessarily have that kind of intuition and that kind of connection with the children that mothers do. So that's something that I've always tried to communicate to him, that,
Mhm.
on a physical, mental level, I'm just encompassed. Everything, is so focused on
Mhm.
Nelson. And, physically when something happens to them, your heart literally skips a beat. We are physically connected to them.
Yeah.
So I think with the sleep stuff, if something's going on with him, we actually had a lot of trouble with Nelson's tummy when he was younger. So sleep training was kind of out of the question. It didn't really work out for us. And that stress of wondering if he was in pain or that, that really is wearing on you. So that was a challenging thing. For I think that he didn't feel it physically as much as I did, that pull to always want to make sure that Nelson was okay.
Mhm.
I think that's an instinctual thing that mothers deal with that fathers don't necessarily have the same level of anxiety
Mhm.
about. But he's always been so supportive and really good at taking him in the morning when he is available. He has a schedule that's all over the place. So he'll take Nelson in the morning sometimes and let me sleep in, or just let me do stretches and do yoga. So we do value that time so much. I really value alone time if I can get it, just some quiet time in the morning. And I think that helps set up the whole day. So like I said, that shower, even if my husband's not available, or if he is around to take him, or a babysitter or something like that, just even for like a little walk, just to like start my day quietly, I think that really helps. And when I can't get help, which is very often, especially this last year,
Mhm.
it was really challenging, and we were pretty locked down. We were really careful, and it was a lot on me. So I did find that I was getting burnt out a lot. But now that things are kind of opening up again, I had a little retreat. I took a little retreat down to Ojai for a day and just kind of filled myself back up, and that really helped. Or even taking a little bike ride or a walk by myself would really, really help just to quiet the chaos of having a kid around.
So it sounds like you were supported and you've learned to articulate to, ask for help. And it's
Yes, which is so
which
hard.
is so hard. And we've talked about it a lot on this show. And the one point you mentioned that's really important for moms to realize is there is this attachment to our kids, like on a physical level that you mentioned. And
Mhm.
I felt like it was really hard for me to explain why I was, like hyper aware and like eyes on the back of my
Yes.
head and like I couldn't sleep at night when I finally could go to sleep. I couldn't sleep because I was worried about the
Yes.
baby. And it was like this
Yes.
thing that was really hard for me to explain. And, if you don't have a partner that really understands, sometimes it's like, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. I hate to say that, but sometimes it's like so
It's
hard to
true.
meet in the middle and say, like, here's what's going on.
Well, we had this moment actually. Do you know the Moxie, the Children's Museum?
Yeah.
On the roof deck, they have this exhibit, and there's a drum that two people put their hands on little receptors on either side, and your heartbeat will dictate the percussion of the drum. And Nelson happened to be running around, and we both had our hands on it, and Nelson tripped, and my drum went boom, 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 boom. And it was so wonderful for Nels to see. My husband's name is Nels, and our son is Nelson. It's confusing. But Nels physically, he saw it, heard it, that my body had a physical reaction to our child tripping. And he was
Wow.
fine. Nothing actually happened, but it was that like moment of, oh my gosh, he fell. And it was so amazing to have that visual and like physical experience for him to understand that that's what's going on in my body.
Wow, what a moment to actually have all of those things collide. Yeah. I think every partner needs
Yeah,
to
go
see
to the
that,
Moxie and
and
take.
yeah, just go to the museum. Yeah, and it's not even to negate the role that a partner or a husband plays. It's
Yes.
just like the physical connection, it's something that's really
Mhm.
hard. And that for me was the biggest challenge, in returning to the water. It wasn't even just the lack of
Mhm.
sleep, but for me, it was feeling a lack of like physical confidence. This was probably early on, like in the first 6 months to a year, but when like for instance, our bellies stretch out and we have to use a lot of core for surfing. And I felt like my core was weak. Is that something that you can speak to?
Absolutely. Getting back in the water, first of all, was the most amazing thing the first time getting back in. I don't think there were really any waves. I just was, I'm going to go float around on my surfboard and get in the ocean. But I did struggle a lot with the physicality of feeling weak and feeling like I could injure myself. Even actually, when I was pregnant, I did injure myself a little bit surfing, where I didn't realize I had so much elastin, or what is,
Elastin,
and
yeah.
I kind of popped a rib out surfing. I fell funny, and or like it sounds dramatic. Like I just kind of my rib got strained, the muscles around my ribs, and then I carried that through the entire pregnancy because I couldn't really bounce back from that injury. And then getting, postpartum, it was really hard. It was really hard to get used to this new body, especially because I had used my body so much for work and play and all of that, and was so used to it and dependent on it, being a model, being a surfer, being active. It was my livelihood in a way, so that it was definitely a departure from that part of my life, and feeling okay with not being fit necessarily the way I feel what being fit is, was really
Mhm.
challenging. Getting back to being surf fit took a while. It took a long time for me to feel I'm actually feeling good today, but just like surfing in general, you just have to have consistency and keep at it. Because if you surf just once a week or something like that, you're probably not going to get better, or get stronger. So yeah.
Absolutely. And we were talking about in our pre-interview chat, but just about like taking that to the next level, like how you used your body not only for surfing and all of, the things that you love to do, but also for modeling. there's a lot of things that people do that they use their bodies and then they become mothers and then it's like this huge kind of self-evaluation, like reevaluation, like, do I return to that? Am I the same
Yeah.
person? Did you have any negative self-talk about that, in new motherhood, or were you pretty even
Oh my
about that?
gosh, no, like, looking in the mirror was awful. I felt terrible. I was like, "What
Right, right.
happened?" Um, but, there's so much wonderful support now for women. I think that I constantly had on social media and all these positive influences of being comfortable and being okay with the
Yeah.
change. And I also feel like I'm an older mother. I was 38 when I had Nelson, and I feel like
Hmm.
I had a really great run of being crazy fit, super skinny, overly skinny, and now that I look back. And
Mm.
so I feel like I was kind of okay with it in that sense that I was like, okay, this is the next phase of my life, and I'm okay to be a little bit heavier. I'm not pressured, in your mind when you go to modeling castings or commercial castings and stuff. There's so much pressure to, be fit and be ready. And in a way, that was a huge relief to not have to have that pressure anymore. And I feel so grateful that my husband provides for us in that way that I didn't have to keep doing that. And I like to focus on things. I'm actually an artist, so I like to focus on doing stuff that really feeds my soul and makes me feel creative and productive in a different way. So
Well, I'm sure. I mean, thank you for your honesty. And I'm sure, in a sense, like, like our bullshit meter kind of goes high when we have kids. And probably in a way, like looking back on that life, maybe there's parts of it that you see, are like, I want to go deeper and really sink into this motherhood experience rather than worrying so much about the,
yes,
like you said, there's a lot of pressure. It's really physically oriented. It can be really, surface level
yes.
in some ways, just like stepping out of that world
Yeah,
and
I
into
never really
motherhood.
loved it, actually, to be honest. I felt like I was trying to make money, and I ended up buying a foreclosure house, and it helped me pay for that. And, I was focused on kind of building a career and doing that, but I never loved the LA Hollywood aspect of it and that kind of pressure on
I
physicality.
bet.
On the flip side, growing up, I felt like I didn't have enough role models that were healthy looking women that represented beauty in a healthy way. And so entering that arena, I really felt like it was important to represent that for younger women. And I ended up kind of focusing my surf lessons and my surf career persona towards really trying to inspire young women that they can be strong and they can be healthy and beautiful at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I love that so much. And this is an important topic. And I love to hear your transition and how it inspired you, because I think that we're in a day and age where finally, women's bodies are being
Right?
celebrated in a positive way. There's, of course, that element of, the Hollywood element. And I'm sure there's still a lot of pressure, within the modeling world, but you're seeing more like, normalizing the
Yeah,
female
real
body.
people.
And that's right, and that's one thing when you step into motherhood that I find so tragic for mothers is how we can't really completely enjoy our experience because we're putting so much
Mhm.
pressure on ourselves, and then we wonder if the pressure is societal or if it's internal or if it's both, and, we're worrying about, what the other moms are doing, on Instagram. So it's a really important, topic
Yeah.
to talk about, is that, are we really enjoying motherhood if we're, focused on, oh my gosh, did I bounce back, from
Yes,
pregnancy?
I really had a hard time with that mentality. Actually, I was super against it. Like,
Mhm.
women, not to say that if you need to do that for you and that makes you feel better, I totally get it. But the pressure to bounce back and to get your body back and
Yeah,
to perform
yeah,
for society. I mean, you're not taking photos for anybody. Like, what are you
right,
doing this for? And
right.
makes you feel good. I understand, like, being fit makes me feel good and gives me energy, and I think that's important. But the pressure to bounce back super fast, I really had a hard time with that
Me
in
too.
general. I was like, I'm going to just soak this up. I'm never like letting it all go and being okay with just being who
Right.
I am right now.
I think there's also like little comments that even we don't catch ourselves making, or our friends will make, or our family will make, like, wow, like you look great, after, or like, oh, you probably only have 10 more pounds to lose. I mean, I heard that from literally
Oh,
family
wow.
members and stuff.
Yeah.
And just the things that we throw around so easily that are actually
Yeah.
like are really hurtful for women at large.
My neighbor, I remember she was saying she's had 2 kids, and she was like, just because I'm pregnant doesn't mean you get to comment on what I look like. You would never
Yes.
comment on what I look like if I wasn't pregnant.
Yes.
And I thought that was so wonderful for her to kind of put it in that perspective.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And just our definition of beauty is so different. Like when my daughter looks at me, she's not looking at, like mommy, or, mommy's skinny or
Mhm.
mommy's in shape or whatever. She just thinks I'm beautiful, like with my moles and my scars and my,
Yeah.
ugly toes or whatever. And like,
Yeah.
how I want to raise her. And, in addition to that, I have this friend, Katie, who's also a surfer. And she said her mother used to go in a one-piece bathing suit with her for like, up until she was a teenager in the ocean with her and take them boogie boarding. And she didn't say anything about her body in front of them. And that's how she really, really appreciated that she didn't have a negative self talk
Mm,
about it, that she just rocked her bathing suit and said, I'm just going to boogie board with you no matter what. It doesn't matter. I mean, I think that's actually outside of the norm. I think we do a lot of like hiding and covering up.
I mean, wetsuits are kind of a godsend. I got to suck it all in, but like, yeah, I feel self-conscious on the beach in my bathing suit for sure. And that's something that I wanted to try and face and just be okay with. And it's hard to like really get used to it. And I also feel like, oh, I'm a baby making body now. This
Yeah.
is this is baby making body. Like this is
Yeah.
not if I was too skinny, I don't think I would have a healthy baby. And so I try to embrace that.
Totally. And the part that's so interesting and sad is that like when we look at each other, we could celebrate each other so much more easily than we can celebrate ourselves. Because here I am like, oh my gosh, you look so healthy and so great and so beautiful. We can give that to someone else, but not to ourselves oftentimes. And I was gonna kind of move in the direction of surfing because I would say it's still a male dominated sport, but less so than it's been in the past. Did you
Mhm.
ever feel like it was like returning to kind of like a boys club? Like, like for instance, I was like breastfeeding under a umbrella when I first had my daughter, and I was watching all the male surfers run by, and I felt like so out of the loop. I felt like so low confidence, and I felt like it was a really hard kind of transition to make. Just surfing in general. Do you think specifically that's something that's hard for moms to return to?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, I feel like it's been the plight of my existence, just always trying to prove myself as a woman
Yeah.
and feel like I'm an equal or I can do this just as good as you are. Or, I was one of only 2 or 3 girls growing up where up in Marin that were actually
Right.
surfing.
Right.
So it was a boys' club. We were all with the boys all the time. And I have older brothers. I have 2 older brothers. So it was kind of a comfortable place for me.
Mhm.
But I think that the competitiveness for me to prove that women can do what boys can do was always there. And that was always like a frustration for me too, that I would get second guessed in the water
Yeah.
even before having a baby. People would look at you and go in front of you.
Yep.
And then if you say something, you're a B or
Yep.
whatever.
Yep.
And so I definitely try to fight that stigma constantly, where women are just as, should be respected in the water as much as they can be out, outside of the water as well, and are capable as much as men are. And I think it's not until more recently, I'd say in the past 10 years, I feel like I finally got to a place where I felt confident enough in my surfing to be like, yeah, I actually do surf better than a lot of those guys.
Right.
And I didn't need to say anything about it. And it was leading up to that, all through my 20s, I really fought against that. And I feel like it made me kind of angry that I wasn't being treated equally. And I used to date a guy that was working within, he was a pro surfer, and
Mhm.
it was really hard being around those guys.
Yeah.
no room for women. And if you were a good surfer, you were a lesbian. And so that was a really frustrating place for me, being around WSL and all that. And I was just
Mhm.
like, oh, I'm just the girlfriend.
Right.
That just was so annoying to me. Yeah, getting back, having a baby is feeling like down at Rincon, I'm with the baby. All of our friends are younger. All of our friends are just those guys down there sitting on the point.
Yeah.
It was like a little funny. I felt like they were a little uncomfortable to be around me breastfeeding
Right.
whatever
Totally.
I was doing. And there was that whole body image thing, like my wetsuits didn't fit. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it was an interesting transition. I'm definitely more comfortable with it now. And
Yeah.
after, Nelson's like 2 now, so it's been a while, but it was it's a funny thing. But I also get really protective of women in the water now.
Mhm.
I always have been, but especially now being a mom,
Me
I'm
too.
like, that kind of behavior does not fly with me. And these guys need to respect the women in the water. And I'm
Right.
going to say something about it.
Oh, I know.
It
I
doesn't
know.
make me a popular person
I
sometimes.
know. I'm exactly the same way. And I have to like take a breath and say, okay, do you really want to say something right now? But I'm the same
Yeah.
exact way as you.
Yeah, and I mean, I try to be graceful about the way I approach these
Right.
guys. Usually just a little tongue in cheek or just a little bit of a check, like with a
Yeah.
smile, like,
Yeah.
"Hey, that's not necessary. Please don't do that."
Right.
And you don't need to burn girls just because it's a girl.
Ex exactly. It's a funny
So
thing, and it's important, I think, for there's a lot of women that listen to this that aren't surfers, but they are, in different sports and such, and I'm sure they can draw similarities, but surfing has this unique, thing where I think from the outside, people think it's like camaraderie and it's like, mellow and hippies, and it's really not like that at all. It can be
no,
really aggressive, and it scared me when I was pregnant. I realized the vibe was really not that safe, at my local breaks and the ones that you
yeah,
like to surf as well. And so I got out of the water probably a little premature. I got out at around 4 months
hmm
pregnant, and I was showing, but I got out a little earlier than I probably could have physically because of the nature of the crowds in the water and the aggression.
yeah, yeah. I would announce it. I'm pregnant.
Oh,
Got a
you
baby
would?
on board here. Oh yeah, I would be really loud about it. I'm a Leo, I'm always
Oh my God, I'm an Aries. No wonder
okay.
we could talk all day.
I'm loud. But I would let people know, like, that's not okay. And now a lot of the guys on the beach see me with Nelson on the beach first, so I think it's kind
Yeah.
of known that I'm a mom, and there's a little bit of, I don't know, like maybe more understanding from them in that way. But
Yeah.
yeah, it is aggressive. It's highly aggressive. I'm like, I don't know if I feed on that or not. The competitiveness of being up on the peak, up for the wave before other people. There's something about that is very carnal and
Yeah.
really, caveman like. I
That's a
could
good way to
compare a lot of
explain
those.
it. That's a really good way to explain it.
Yeah, and so I also feel like you would never act like that out of the water. You would
Right.
never go and step in front of someone in line at the grocery store
No.
and look at them in the face and just be like, "What are you gonna do?" That's
Right.
that's the kind of stuff they're doing. So I try to remind them that we're still people, and just because you're in the water, you don't get to act like
Oh my
that.
gosh. Or like, I mean, this is anecdotal, but I'm sure this has happened to you before. Like some dude that's on land would be happy to try to like hit on you on land, and then in the
Yes,
water, if you're surfing better than them or paddling around them or whatever, they act
yeah,
completely different, and that always makes
yes.
my eye twitch. It really makes me irritated.
Oh, I mean, all those guys at the pit at the Rincon, they're ridiculous.
Yeah, totally. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
it's definitely a constant battle of, proving that women are equal or that we have a place there. So I do appreciate that other women are right there with me.
Yes, yes. And, I think I've said this before, but I think women who surf and, outdoor women in general, they don't necessarily fit inside one box. Like, I feel like I don't relate to all the moms who are on one team or all the moms that are on another. Like, oh, did you bottle feed? Did you breastfeed? Did you sleep train? Did you
Yeah.
not? I've always felt like I kind of did a little bit of everything. And, I
Mhm.
think that should be normalized as well. Can you speak to that? Like, not fitting into one box?
Yeah, I think, with all the advice and everything out there and all the pressures to do whatever it is, It was just really important for me to just listen to what felt right for me and what was working for Nelson. I think there's a lot of pressure to separate the baby, have independence, do all this stuff, and that just didn't feel right for me. And whatever it is, feeding them this or doing that or using this car seat, I
Right.
was it's there's so much information and so much this is better than that kind of mentality. And like I mentioned, he had tummy issues, so things were a little different for us. And I just really tried to listen to Nelson. And I think that that's something my mom actually gave me that advice. Like, look at the baby. Is the
Right.
baby tired? Is the baby fussy? Is the
Right.
baby, what is the baby doing? Instead of listening to some book.
Right.
And I think that a lot of that gets lost now with so much information and so many experts. And it's important to remember that what the experts say this year might not be what the experts are saying next year or the year after. So,
Right.
just being intuitive and staying really tuned in to what Nelson was doing, I think it really helped him flourish. And we have an amazing connection in that way too. So I don't know if I answered your
No,
question,
that's
but
actually a beautiful explanation. I think honoring your child and honoring your intuition, there's so much out there available, online and at our fingertips, so much information. It's the age of information, but then we're going against our intuition and our mother's intuition. I think you were saying that in so many words, is stronger than anything we could, I believe that my heart kind of opened up. There was like this heart center that just completely broke open when I had my daughter. And now I feel like I can exactly feel everything that she needs. I think that's another thing that moms can
yes.
really feel into. And it's so easy to lose that when we're compare, despair, or and I still feel that I'm not perfect. I try to, be in my own motherhood, not in one box, but I still feel sometimes when a mom will say like, oh, you haven't blah 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 yet, or
Oh
oh,
yeah.
she's not going number 2 in the potty yet, she's almost
Oh
four,
yeah.
or whatever, and there still is judgment out there.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, the fact that Nelson still can't sleep through the night constantly, he sleeps in his bed and he'll wake up. And we've had nights where he slept in his bed all night, but so I feel so judged all the time. I went, oh, my baby sleeps all night. And I'm like, well, good for you.
Doesn't
I
that
don't
make you
know what to
crazy? Let's
say.
just pause and say, doesn't that make you crazy when people are like, oh, my baby sleeps so great?
You're lying, first of all. No,
Yes, yes. Oh my god, it's so funny.
I think that the pressure from other mothers can be there. And I think
Yeah,
maybe they're just feeling insecure or something. Maybe that's what's going on. But
totally.
feeling, yeah, sticking with your intuition, being strong enough to say that's not working for me. I'm
Yeah,
gonna and I definitely was subject to it. The schedule, I was trying to stay on the schedule, not let him fall asleep on the boob, all of these
yeah,
things that I was like, he's naturally falling asleep on the boob. It's
yeah.
just like that's what he does. Like,
Counterintuitive, yeah,
so why would I force something to happen that
right.
isn't what's happening? So, and then I had other friends that were like, "Oh, our baby just slept whenever. Wake
Yeah,
up, we'd be awake, they'd sleep," and
yeah.
they just went with it totally free form, and that was really inspiring to me. So, yeah, sometimes it's not good to read the books because then you feel like you're not doing it right.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely, and there's
You
always
know
gonna
it's
yeah,
right.
well, there's always gonna be one extreme or the other too, like, I had my daughter on a schedule because I thought that's what I needed to do, and then, like you said, I have some friends that are like, "Oh, no, we let him nap wherever. He'll nap in the car seat, he'll nap in the bike seat, he'll nap," I'm like,
Yeah,
"What? My child won't do that." So I think it's a child-to-child basis too.
true, true. I do notice though, like when from my experiences with my friends and with my kid and stuff, it's like when you create, it's not a crutch necessarily, but when you create a schedule that you have to abide to,
Right.
that they won't be able to sleep in other places and they won't
Yes,
they
yes.
create a whatever you dictate is what's going to happen. So I tried to talk to my friend who's pregnant right now about that recently. Like, it's important when they're just, even when you're pregnant, to think about how are you going to create this program for them? Are you going to be on a strict program where they only sleep in their bed? Because then you won't be able to have them sleep anywhere else. So it's you kind of set yourself up in a way, and you got to be aware of what you really want to do because we travel a lot. And I think if we had been on some kind of a sleep schedule that I was driving myself crazy to stay on, which I did for a lot, I tried with a lot of play. And it's important to give yourself, that grace period. And we traveled a lot with him, and he was able to have all these wonderful experiences and be out and about. And I think that was really valuable for him too. So I might not have necessarily stayed on the schedule, but
I think what you're saying in so many words is really important, but I also think like our vibe as parents is really picked up on more than
yes.
our words. So like if we approach it in an anxiety filled,
Yeah.
an anxious way, which I know that I did in the beginning because I thought I needed to keep her on a schedule, but when I actually let go of the reins more, she lets go of
Yes.
the reins more. So it's for sure they
Absolutely.
mimic what we do.
I know, and with the first one, I feel like the second baby is always so chill. Like my friend's second
Yeah.
babies are always chill because the parents are finally relaxed.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, that leads me to one more question and then we'll wind down. Do you feel any pressure as a quote older mother? I'm an older mother too. I hate that. I hate when people say that, but do you ever feel
Yeah.
pressure as a more mature mother to have a second one? And do people ask you a lot?
Well, I mean, you didn't say geriatric mother. What did you say? I was like, I know said. I was like, what?
Totally.
I'm only 36. But yeah, no, for sure, I feel
Me
pressure. I
too.
feel a lot of pressure from my husband. Actually, he really wants to have. He comes from 6 children. A family of 6 kids, so there's a little bit of that. I'm not going to say I was indifferent. I was not like, this is my life passion to have children.
Right.
I was having a good life. I was traveling the world. I was doing really good things. But I knew in the back of my mind, having a family was important to me. But now that I have one, I feel like, okay, I'm turning 40 in August. I gotta try and have one soon. And my time is running out. More also because of the medical aspect of it, it's more dangerous and for you or the baby, the older you get. And that's just a physiological thing, so you can't really get around that. But I am trying, I think, now to really get serious about having a second kid and wanting Nelson to have a sibling. And it's hard to take the anxiety and pressure off of that
Right.
too, where I feel like I don't want to be stressed about it. I want to be relaxed, but I only have, only have so much time. And
Yes.
this is a good time, and figuring out when to have him. And so, I mean, the pandemic did not help with
No.
any.
No, it didn't
So,
at
I
all.
mean, yeah, the pandemic just intensified everything that was already going on. But yeah, so it's kind of a weird time to think about it. But I'm kind of grateful that I wasn't pregnant. I'm trying to go to the hospital and stuff and do all that during the pandemic. So in the beginning of it, but the pressure is definitely there. I know, like my sister-in-law is 43 now, and she's like, we're just not gonna have another one. They have a 4-year-old, and they don't want to be older parents necessarily. If they had a baby now, that my brother would be kind of old by the time they were 10. They
Right.
were thinking about that. There's so much to think about. But 40 is the new 30 or 20 or whatever,
Right.
and I feel like we're all living longer, and I feel up for it. So I feel like it's kind of whether or not someone's really up for it. I mean, I know moms that are like
Oh,
45 having
totally,
babies.
totally.
Crazy.
It's just dependent on a, person to person basis. I think that's another thing that we can't read about and just like have like a blanket,
Mm-hmm.
generalization about. I think it's on a person to person basis. And I totally identify with what you're saying, and there's also moms that are, like single moms who, they as they get older, they feel like, oh my God, can I not do this anymore? And there's such this like age pressure for women, which is hard
Mm-hmm.
because we could be so young, like on a cerebral level, and then our bodies age.
Yes.
That's one thing that's challenging for women.
I mean, I still feel like I'm 20 and I still
I
act like
know,
it sometimes.
I know.
Yeah, so I'm like, when they told me I was geriatric at 36, I was like, what are you talking about?
I'm right there with you.
Yeah. But I do know that physically it is more of a risk,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's, that's apparent. But
To you, like I said earlier, I feel like we could probably talk for 2
Oh, yeah.
episodes, and
I
I'm
know.
I like I was telling you before, and I think many moms can attest to, if I get my mom to cover me, I do like 40 things in one day, so I'm gonna
Yes.
go. But you have such great
I don't blame you.
content here to discuss, so we'll have to have you on again. And before
I
we,
would love
yeah, I
to.
would love it. And just before we close out, can you just tell our listeners what being a soul mama means to you?
Oh, I think, kind of what I was saying before, just following your intuition and trying to have fun with it and really, taking your child out into nature, communing with nature. I think that's the most soulful thing that we ever do. And I really love the way that it, affects Nelson and he just is blossoming out in the world and out in nature the most. So that's probably what I would say being a soul mama means to me.
I love that. And where can our mamas check you out on social media, etc.?
I am Surf Cat with a K on Instagram. So that's the easiest way to track me down. I was really active on Instagram, back when I was acting and stuff. And I feel like I've kind of fallen off that train a little bit for many reasons. I feel like social media is
Yes.
evil, but I also love the way it connects us. So it's hard. It's a conflict in my
Oh my
life.
God,
Like,
that could be a whole nother episode. I feel the same way. I have kind of a love, it's like one extreme to the other.
yeah, yeah. And I have made so many amazing connections through it. And I did a lot of work, as I was telling you earlier, with Channel Keeper and, kind of activist work and environmentalist work. I feel like using that platform in any way I can in a positive way is my goal. So less pictures of Nelson and more pictures of trash.
And as a mother, it's kind of like keep your account positive, so that if anything's making you feel negative, I love that idea of not following anyone who doesn't make you feel positive, and not putting so
Yeah.
much pressure on ourselves to, like, I put a lot of pressure in the beginning on the podcast to, like, always be on my Instagram. And you know what? It's like it's so much more vital to be, with your kids and be present. And that's one thing that took me off of being present. So like I said, it could be a whole different episode.
Oh my gosh, we could talk about screens. I'm like, I'm done with it. Yes,
Ye
I agree. I
yes.
agree. It's a tool, and using it as a tool and keeping the balance. That's my goal.
Yes. Well, you are awesome and very articulate, and,
Thank
and
you.
you've explained motherhood beautifully. And like I said, we'll have to have you on for a second part. And I hope to see you in the water soon.
Yes, let's do it. Let's go swim.
All right, Kat. Thank you so much for being on.
No
All
worries.
right.
Have a good
Talk to
day.
you soon.
Bye.
That wraps up this episode of the Soul Mamas podcast. If you like this episode and think someone else would, please share it. Check us out weekly and every week for future episodes where I interview a variety of soul mamas who talk about topics like launching businesses, training for athletic pursuits, and nurturing creative ventures with their little ones in tow. Some weeks I will be sharing the uncensored reality of my own personal journey into motherhood, which includes the ups and the downs. If you'd like to join the Soul Mamas tribe, or for show notes and latest news, go to www.soulmamas.com to check out more. You can find us on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you find your podcasts. And if you like more episodes downloaded every week straight to your device, hit subscribe. If you enjoyed this episode, please take the time to rate and review it so we can reach more mamas. Thanks again for listening.